what we've been doing. We're at the beginning. No.
Oh my goodness.
Will you send it to me?
The tattoo email.
Yeah, you know that. She was here in Nashville several years ago. I love her colorful way.
She does make your hair come. In a good way. They have a thing at their church where, on Reformation Sunday, they have a huge bake sale. They call it selling indulgences. I laughed. That's brilliant.
We should tie that into our singing for songwriter night. We'll sell crosses. By any chance, could we actually start on time? Oh my gosh, it is like right at 10:15.
10:16.
Oh, it just went up. No, mine still says 10:15.
Mine says 10:15.
Oh, this one says 10:16, so. Yeah. I just have to say, I love today. I had a fun time. The pastor, that pregnant lady, she told me right before the service that she's a pastor, said, oh man, don't do that to me before the service. So I gotta make sure I do everything just right. But I forgot that her parents were here back on the first Sunday of VBS. And they lived down in Florida and they were here, so.
Great.
Kinda, not as much as it used to be. Yeah, Fred, right? Yeah. Well, no, it took me a while. I didn't recognize. They looked kind of familiar, but then they said they were here. Yeah, you're from Florida, And she said, yeah. So, but great memory. What's her name?
You jinxed him now.
Yeah, I know. Mary Lee, we'll just go with that because y'all don't know. She's got a brother or something that lives just over there. So, does he have a church? Well, we're working on them. You know how that is. You got it. Plant a seed.
Yeah, that's
or
right.
whatever.
That's right.
I sent you that.
Huh?
I sent you that, so you
Oh, good. Is it long?
know. It's not long. Matter of fact, I read it.
Because it might tie in exactly where we're starting today. Because where we left off last week, and everybody's kind of been here except y'all, talking about why we believe what we believe about God and Jesus, and from a scriptural standpoint, to help us, in our walks of faith, and to help us in our basic walks. So she just sent me this, and we're on the Beatitudes where we left off last week, and there's a wonderful, colorful pastor. Nadia Bolz-Weber. Have you ever heard of that name?
Never.
Yeah, she's very colorful with all the tattoos and with the language that she uses. She doesn't care using certain words even.
She's got an audience.
She has an audience. She is the pastor of the House for All Sinners and Saints.
She
How?
speaks. Not anymore.
Oh, not anymore. Has she
She
gone?
just left there, yeah.
Did she just? Okay.
She's like a pastor at large for the synod in Colorado.
And she speaks the vernacular of her congregation.
Of her
Yeah,
congregations.
just people that we
Yeah,
reach.
yeah, just and all the people that Jesus would be speaking to.
Absolutely.
Going to all the outcasts, whatever you envision. Drug addicts, trans,
Yep.
just people of color, immigrants. Just all those people, and speaks their language, and I don't mind it the way she does it. Obviously, she doesn't either. But Chris, some of y'all may know Chris and Lee, and some of y'all may not. There are wonderful associate members, from Hermantown, Minnesota, who have name tags and everything, here for the Sing Conference, the Getty Sing Conference every year. And they saw us in 2019. I think the last day or so y'all were here, and y'all were driving through and said, oh, the ELCA church will have to come here next year. That was in 2019.
Yes.
And then 2020 came with the tornado, and then the pandemic.
Church here.
There was no church here. There was no church. And you know, we were very blessed in that a lot of churches didn't have churches either, since everybody was doing the online thing.
Yeah.
So we were kind of like everybody else, but everybody else wasn't like us. But she just sent me a thing from Nadia Bolz-Weber on her kind of rewriting, maybe I haven't looked at it yet, of the Beatitudes. Blessed are the agnostics. Blessed are they, see, I'm going right into it, you know. Blessed are they who doubt, those who aren't sure, who can still be surprised. Blessed are they who are spiritually impoverished and therefore not so certain about everything that they no longer take in new information. Blessed are those who have nothing to offer. Yeah. Well, wow. Blessed are the preschoolers who cut in line at communion. Or some of the kids that come up wanting an extra piece of bread. Blessed are the poor in spirit. You are of heaven, and Jesus blesses you. Blessed are they for whom death is not an abstraction. Blessed are they who have buried their loved ones, for whom tears could fill an ocean. Blessed are they who have loved enough to know what loss feels like. Blessed are the mothers of the miscarried. Blessed are they who don't have the luxury of taking things for granted anymore. Blessed are they who can't fall apart because they have to keep it together for everyone else. Blessed are those who still aren't over it yet. Blessed are those who mourn. You are of heaven, and Jesus blesses you. Blessed are those who no one else notices. The kids who sit alone at middle school lunch tables. The laundry guys at the hospital. The sex workers and the night shift street sweepers. Blessed are the forgotten. Blessed are the closeted. Blessed are the unemployed, the unimpressive, the underpresented. Blessed are the teens who have to figure out ways to hide the new cuts on their arms. And she's probably from experience herself, probably in some of these cases, and who she ministers to. You are of heaven, and Jesus blesses you. Well, what for that? Blessed are the meek. Blessed are the wrongly accused, the ones who never catch a break, the ones for whom life is hard. For Jesus chose to surround himself with people like them. Blessed are those without documentation. Blessed are the ones without lobbyists. Blessed are the foster kids and special ed kids and every other kid who wants to be fed or feel safe and loved. That was another thing, you know, talking to the counselors, people in the school, not just the food things. You know, kids, you know, have a sibling get killed, you know, or have parents fighting, you know. How do they learn? How can, Blessed are those who make terrible business decisions for the sake of people. I wonder where she's going to get a politician in here. Blessed are the burned out social workers and overworked teachers and the pro bono case takers. Blessed are the kind-hearted football players and the fundraising trophy wives. Yeah, okay. Since football season started, I'll give this one a break. But there are a lot of kind-hearted football, and you know, it's really bothered me more and more how much money our sports and entertainment people are making, but a lot of people do a lot of good with the money they have.
It's all you can ask of anybody.
Yeah. Blessed are the kind-hearted football players. Oh, I did that. Blessed are the kids who step between the bullies and the weak. I remember my dad doing that one time, coming back from either mine or my brother's baseball games. It was like 8 or 9 o'clock at night. It was dark, and he saw some kids bullying some kid, and he stopped the car. and went over to do something about it, you know, and my mom's going, Charlie, get back in there, what are you doing? But yeah,
And you remembered it.
and I do remember it.
I'm sure that guy, the little kid did too.
Yeah, that's true.
Blessed are they who hear they are forgiven. Boy, I hope people hear that. You know, when I get up here on Sunday mornings, your sins are forgiven. I hope they can hear that. Blessed is everyone who has ever forgiven me when I didn't deserve it. Blessed are the merciful, for they totally get it. And then it just goes on. Well, let's see. She has a. Imagine Jesus standing here blessing us all, because I believe that is our Lord's nature. I kind of said that today, I think. Because after all, it was Jesus who had all the powers of the universe at his disposal and did not consider his equality with God something to be exploited. Instead, he came to us in the most vulnerable of ways, as a powerless flesh and blood newborn, as if to say, you may hate your bodies, but I am blessing all human flesh. You may admire strength and might, but I am blessing all human weakness. You may seek power, but I am blessing all human vulnerability. This Jesus whom we followed cried at the tomb of his friend and turned the other cheek and forgave those who hung him on a cross, because he was God's beatitude. He was God's beatitude. Wow. Wow. I mean, that's so true. God's blessing to the weak in a world that admires only the strong.
Now, if you'll text that to everyone in here, please.
No, I'm gonna, trust me, it's gonna go to everybody. I might just put it on my Facebook pages and stuff for people to see, because that's, yeah, she has a special calling. She has a special gift. Yes, she does. And so do you, by the way. And so do I. And we need to know that we are blessed. I don't know if we're going to read through all these Beatitudes, and we're definitely not going to read the Sermon on the Mount that's on here. But that's why we're here, is to be reminded that we are blessed. You know, that we are blessed. You know, blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. What does Matthew, Jesus, what does that mean? Blessed are the poor in spirit? What do you think?
Well, first of all, let's define blessed
Blessed.
and blessing. Because we bless God.
Happy are they
Here,
is,
yeah.
I think, is the Greek understanding of blessed. Happy are they.
So when we say, you know, blessed be God, we're saying happy is God.
You did the Bible Project on Wednesday. They have a wonderful thing on the sermon series on the Sermon on the Mount, and they do a whole hour on what blessed means.
A whole hour?
A whole hour, yeah. And it's in their words.
BibleProject.com.
Yeah.
For those who, what he's talking about.
Yeah, it's in one of the podcasts in the Sermon on the Mount series.
Okay.
But they talked about it being how things are right with, or things are well. The best translation I can think of is sort of a musical expression called "It's all in the one." In funk music, which everybody hits a note on the first beat, and after that they're kind of doing their same thing, but everything comes together on the first beat of the measure.
Huh.
And George Clinton, I think, is the one that used that in terms of, like in blessing. Anyway, so things are right, things are well, and the way it's used there, it may not be evident yet, but it will be as kind of the meaning that's there.
Yeah. Do you ever feel poor in spirit? What is poor in spirit? Because there's two ways we can look at this. Blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Is poor in spirit? What is poor in spirit?
I feel like it would be timid.
To be what?
Timid, like maybe you're not.
Okay, that's yeah. Because you've been beaten down by everybody else, and you're afraid to speak up because who am I? You know, because yeah. You know, another way to maybe look at that is being poor in our spirit and more rich towards God's spirit. I think there's a way maybe to look at that. I don't know if it's scripturally, but I think we need to be poor in our spirit. You know, if St. John's, St. John's, we're not poor in, if we were rich in our spirit, we might be doing all this stuff out here to see how good we are. You know, but because we do these things because we're called and commanded and empowered and equipped to do them, you know, we are poor in our spirit but rich in God's spirit. That God is with us. And we do what we do because, yeah, Jesus said to do it. Yeah, he really did. I mean, there's, at least in my understanding. You know, and
Kind of like the St. Paul, I am crucified with Christ.
yeah,
You know, nevertheless I live.
right.
Yet
And,
not I,
and because
Christ.
he was crucified and raised, Paul was risen from the dead also after however many years of living as if he was dead and not knowing it until Jesus came to him on that road, you know, to Damascus and opened his eyes 3 days later. 3 days later, you know. You know, I mean, we all need to be raised from the dead sometime. You know.
Yet not I, but Christ.
I know. I mean, and he has that big long thing about, you know, I'm terrible. I mean, you know, Luther would say, you know, I'm worse than maggot fodder, not the maggots, but the food that they eat. You know, and Paul goes it even further. Everything that I accomplished or believed about myself, you know, in the translations, you get like garbage or rubbish. Yeah. But that's not the meaning. It's what goes down the sewer. You know, dumb, you know, whatever to be. Now, if Nadia Boltz-Weber was here, she would probably tell us, you know. But we need to be less in our spirit and more in God's spirit, because it's not about us. You know, it's what God has done for us.
I cannot do it by my own wisdom and strength, but by the Holy Spirit
Yeah.
who dwells within me.
That's right. You know, in Ephesians 2:8-9, I mean, that spirit it's a gift. You know, as you've heard me say a lot of times, I asked my seminary professor, don't I have to confess Jesus as Lord? Yes, you do. Ephesians 2:8-9 tells you the Spirit gives you the ability to do that. For it is by grace you have been saved through faith. And this is not your own doing. It is the gift of the Spirit that allows me to say, I accept Jesus as my Lord and Savior. You know, it's all about the gift. It's all about the gift. And then what we are to do, because Ephesians 2:10, I'm sure you're probably tired of me saying this all the time, for you are created in Christ Jesus for good works. So people can, you know the goodness of God. You know, if we were to ever contrast Mark, Matthew, and Luke, you know, Luke leaves off the Spirit. Blessed are the poor. He gets right to the very heart of who Jesus was, because he has Jesus' first sermon, which we talked about a couple weeks ago maybe, from Luke 4. You know, I came to release prisoners, to feed, you know, all that, you know, and to be with the poor, and that's why he probably left off Spirit, or maybe, yeah, he probably left it off. Matthew may have been written. I don't know who wrote in order. Mark believed to be first, John was the last. So anyway, there's differences in the gospel writers. Does it make Jesus' message less? No, because they're writing to specific churches, specific individuals, based on their accounts and their understanding, just like I'm doing today, right? Yeah. Blessed are those who mourn, for they will be comforted. Blessed are those who mourn. Happy are those who mourn. What is mourning? What comes to mind? A loss. A loss.
And if you feel a loss, you have to have a love.
If you feel lost, you have to have a love first. Absolutely. Thank you. Yes, you had to have something that was,
Meaningful.
yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah, or a want, that, you know, we have to mourn not having our own children for
Well,
Maybe
sure.
Infertility.
Yeah.
But also people who've lost a limb, or, you know, who
Yeah.
are out of an ability, you mourn what you were able to do
Yeah.
and what you know, and what you can't do anymore.
Yeah. Now, correct me if you need to, and I welcome if you do. We delivered 653 bags, food bags. Do we do that because people were mourning? Blessed are those who mourn. We mourn, you know, that budget cuts and money, you know, turned down. We mourn that they weren't going to get fed, and so through that mourning, it inspired us to do something about that. Because it does. You can't mourn if you don't have a love, and when you see something going on, you know, I mean, I mourned Wednesday when I found out, you know, about the shooting in Minnesota. You know, absolutely. You know, because that affects me, and it should affect everyone, but it just doesn't seem to do enough to make any changes. I don't want to get ultra political here, but I do, and you know. Blessed are the meek, for they will inherit the earth. Are these just words of encouragement for people who are poor in spirit and who mourn and are beaten down by being meek, getting run over by people? That there is something, you know, better coming down the road. I mean, look at the African Americans of slavery. You know, they had to be, well, they were meek. I mean, they weren't even treated as human beings. You know, but what kept them going was all those wonderful spiritual songs. You know, that, you know, chariots and all that, you know, yeah. What do you think? Blessed are the meek.
I think the entire Sermon on the Mount was radical, because it was probably opposite of what they were
Oh,
hearing.
no, there's no probably
The rich are
about it.
blessed. The rich are the ones who are blessed. So
They're-
if you say blessed are the poor, they're like, what?
Yeah, I mean, Jesus is very,
It's radical.
very radical
Yeah.
in, you know, the Beatitudes and the Sermon on the Mount. You know, and if you've watched the Chosen series, you know, and in the probably the first season or sometime, whenever they had the wedding in Cana, you know, when Jesus, I mean, Mary tries to get Jesus to do something about the wine, you know, and Jesus tells her, it's not my time, it's not my hour yet. And Mary goes, if not now, when? Okay, you fast forward to season 4 or 5, whenever he does, they're building up this whole season, you know, basically for the big sermon that's coming. You know, and I think Mary kind of understands this is going to be very radical and different. And she asked him, you really want to do this now? And Jesus looks at her and says, now this is all conjecture,
Yeah, okay.
for sure. You know, he looks at her and said, if not now, when? You know, because this is, I mean, it's just like, you know, Luke 4, where he says he's fulfilling Isaiah to come for the captives and the poor and the prisoners and all that. This is the same thing. This is a very radical teaching for the people of that day. Because if you were poor, you were not blessed. You were that way because you're a sinful person and God calls this to happen to you. And the same thing with all of these. You know, and Jesus is changing to help people know that they are blessed in spite of what the world says about them. You know, and if we were to go through the whole Sermon on the Mount, you'll see, you know, how radical his teaching was. But, you know, Jesus, as radical as that teaching was, he just didn't walk up the mountain. Or in Luke's gospel, he's doing it on a plane. You know the difference? In Matthew's very Jewish, so going up a mountain is like getting the law from Moses. And so Jesus is going up to get the law from God to give it to the people. Luke is more Gentile people, where God comes down to be where people are, right, where it meets them where they are, just like Jesus was doing. You know, so it's way, you know, how the they nuance how they tell the story to their audience. But Jesus is telling them, things are changing, people. And as you go through the sermon, you have heard that it was said, but I say to you, I don't know how many times he does it, but he does it. He addresses a lot of major areas of life that were so contrary to the way of life at that time. So blessed are those who hunger and thirst for righteousness. And I think if we looked at Luke's gospel, he would say, blessed are those who hunger and thirst. There's a big difference. Matthew is, all about righteousness, because righteousness is all Jewish. Going back to all the prophets, the righteousness of God, from the very beginning, so it ties in real well with his audience. Luke, they got poor people, that need food and are hungry and thirsty. But blessed are those who thirst for righteousness, for they will be filled. And that's what Jesus was bringing to them in this sermon and through his life, is to fill them for their hunger for righteousness, that they are a child of God. They are seen by God. They are loved by God, where the world did not do any of that for them. And I know I'm speaking in generalities, but that's basically, what it was from my limited understanding. Blessed are the merciful, for they will receive mercy. What do you think about that? That's just, you just be kind. Do justice, love kindness, and walk humbly with God. Even when the world doesn't like you to do that sometimes. Blessed are the pure in heart, for they will see God. Wow, anybody pure in heart in this room? But we're supposed to, we should, we try to be, I guess. We never will. But when that nurse, took me down 4th flight, that was pretty cool. That was pretty cool. When I took Nick to the emergency room, I had to take my car to go park it somewhere because there's no place to park down there. So, said, well, when you come back, just come right on in. I'll get you where you're supposed to go. Being merciful and mercy. Just being kind. Just being kind. Blessed are the peacemakers, for they shall be called children of God. It's got to be hard to be a peacemaker sometimes. How do you be a peacemaker? Of course, now we have a weapon of mass destruction called a peacemaker, right? Isn't it one of our ultra bombs or whatever that they did several years ago? Huh? Yeah, no, I think it is. I think it is. It's called the peacemaker bomb. Okay. Hey Siri, is there a peacemaker bomb?
The Peacemaker is a 500 kiloton nuclear missile, the largest tactical nuclear weapon, which is based on the Killer Whale missile and can be fired from an appropriate launcher. This is from Sardis.
Peacemaker. Peacemaker. Yeah.
It's horrendous.
How we use church words for mass destruction. But peacemakers, we got to, and it's hard to be is it hard to be a peacemaker right now? I think it is, because people are so polarized one way or the other. It's hard to have those conversations at times.
Make those sides mad at you.
Yeah, and then you just can't have a good argument, so to speak, and where we can maybe learn from each other. We just can't do that.
And if you think, there's an offense and a defense, so you can be neither. You can't be on the offensive. You cannot be on the defensive when you're the peacemaker. You can't sit there and say, I have to defend myself because I have been wrong.
Yeah.
I have to find peace.
Yeah.
And that's really hard.
That's really hard. As I said last week, is Jesus out here on the far right wingers? Is he out there on the far left wingers? Absolutely. But what is he trying to do? He's trying to do what we have a hard time, if almost impossible to do, is to bring people together. That's what he tried to do you know, and what he continues to try to do through us, you know, is to bring people together, you know, to,
And I think we should see that a peacemaker isn't necessarily a negotiator, because a lot of times a negotiator has to take a side, right?
yes, absolutely. You know, and Jesus, I guess, would be the ultimate peacemaker. I mean, Father, forgive them. I mean, he could have rained down 5 billion kilotons, you know, and blown away everything in the entire universe, you know, but the true peacemaker shows us how to live love. And there is no greater example, no greater example, no greater example, did I say that enough? You know, than Jesus on the cross. You know, and make no mistake, you know, do I really got to do this? And he says, yeah, not my will, but your will. You know, so he is the ultimate, obviously. And because he did, we're supposed to. I was going to say we don't have to. Yeah, we do. We're supposed to live the life he died so tragically for, you know, to make a difference, to bring peace, you know, into our world. And I felt really good peace today. I really did. Especially with that pastor and with the other pastors, you know, just had a good little repartee with them. It was fun. How could you tell me you were a pastor beforehand? I used to be a little wary about my preaching at times. Used to be. I'm getting over that. And more and more. Yeah. And it's a growing process. It's absolutely a growing process. Blessed are those who are persecuted for the sake of righteousness. And again, if we look at Luke, if he has this one, he's going to take off the righteousness. Blessed are those who are persecuted. You know, and who's not persecuted? You know, the guy that did the shooting, she was persecuted. I would imagine, I don't know her story, his story, you know, but was that person persecuted? Was she bullied throughout her life that caused that tragic incident? And we'll probably never know. We'll probably never know, but we do know that guns are the number one cause of death for kids. Number one. And I don't know if it's just suicide, but maybe things like that also. But
And you can keep looking at those statistics as they relate. The number one cause of death for a pregnant woman is her partner.
say that again?
The number one cause of death for pregnant women is her partner.
I'd never heard that. I mean, like the partner kills the pregnant mom?
Domestic violence.
Domestic violence, well, I never associated that with, oh my God.
I know, it's scary, and how often is the gun the weapon of choice?
Yeah.
You know, it's just, we look at these things, and I truly believe that we are called to make those statistics known. Because without facts, people don't move.
Right.
And you have to show them that there is the peacemaker's way.
Yeah. There's more guns than there are people in this country. And it's probably times two. I mean, I don't know. I mean, but I think I did hear that. There are more guns than there are people. And why people need those AR-15s and stuff, you don't go do that to shoot a Bambi, which I can't imagine people killing deers. I mean, it's for war, which I wish we didn't have wars, but, you know, and Jesus, you know, yeah, obviously he was against that. When asked about, I got a couple swords now, one's enough. You know, don't escalate.
Yeah.
Because we have to take care of ourselves. You know, there are times when we're going to need, in his case, a sword, you know, to protect ourselves. But no, we don't need 50, you know, per person. What I mean, this don't go there.
I mean, the scary-
But maybe we do, because, you know, but it'll never change if we don't. And you could be beating your head against a wall when you try. You know.
I mean, I got my grandsons out of a war zone to come here to have the number one, and I just say, oh my God, he's got, what, 2.5 more years of school, please. I have my daughter who's a teacher, it's like, it's disgusting, it's
I
the
know.
scariest thing. And and this is America.
I know. And, you know, Yeah, because the 91 school shootings, I mean, it was on ABC's morning, Good Morning America on Thursday morning. But I Googled it and I found either 44 or 57. So I don't know, I think for the 57 or whatever, it was just this calendar year. But, I mean, which,
Yeah.
well, but maybe from beginning of school last year to, maybe that's where it came to 91, which is, oh my God, I mean, that's just, one is too many, and I so wanted to have grandkids. And I'm kind of glad we didn't, but I still do. And we're still not, but what they will have to go through.
Yes.
But if that's my feeling, what am I doing about it?
And we're not called when we're assured of success. We said that earlier.
Oh, yeah.
We're just called to try.
We're just called, as Jesus, had the 70 go out, preach the good news. If they listen to you, great. If they don't, shake the dust off and keep moving. You're gonna have disappointments, duh. But you can't argue people and that's part of what the reason for this class is. If you start arguing, that Jesus isn't all loving with someone, they might have better arguments for you than what you have. And well, maybe there is questions. Maybe that's why we need to know more about why we believe what we believe, to help that, to help our understanding. But you're not going to argue anybody. That guy came in my office a few years ago. There's no way I could change him in that argument. I mean, he was argumentative. I was calm, cool, and collected. Get the hell out of my office. No, I didn't say that, but I just said, we're just going to agree to disagree, and it's time for you to go.
You just came in your office and started arguing?
Yeah, well, we had offices before we were back here, and he was making the rounds, trying to hawk a CD of his wife, singer-songwriter, Christian, and then I said, okay, I'll listen to it or whatever. I don't have any money or whatever. You give me your website. So he pulls out the infamous pamphlet.
Here's a tract.
There's a tract, and the first thing I opened up said, not all people are God's people, God's children. And I go, let's have a conversation about this. So I am the devil incarnate. You're not a pastor. You're the devil incarnate. You're going to hell, and everybody you're leading is going to hell. So I tried to, say this is what I believe. We're different. Nobody has all the answers. And he just wouldn't get over it. I said, okay, well, we're done. Yeah, you're welcome to leave now. I mean, he's not, please God, don't let him ever change me. But that's why Jesus said, shake the dust off and go on. And he also says, that treat them as Gentiles and tax collectors. Who treats Gentiles and tax collectors? Jesus. Plant the seed.
Right.
Plant the seed. And let Jesus do what he's supposed to do. Let the Spirit do what she's supposed to do. You're not going to change anybody. I'm not going to change anybody. And I don't want to change anybody. Well, no, I don't. Because it's not my job to change anybody. My job is to stand up here, and spout out what I believe to help the Spirit move through us and through him. And who knows? Who knows?
Our job is to love people like him.
I know. And I didn't yell back at him. I just,
that's the hard part.
We'll just agree to disagree, and just go on our separate ways. Lost a sale.
Yeah, it's really hard. I've been very angry and about situations that are going on in the world, as a lot of people are. But sometimes I can, get my Brooklyn Dander up, and it's. If
No.
I see certain things people put on their lawns, I'm like, oh my God, and I'm so angry. Now it's like, oh, God bless you. God bless you. You're just sad, and a sad person, that you live in fear and don't accept people, but sometimes you can, it's very hard. And I do say, our Father a little differently. I say we try to, forgive those who do it, because I try.
Yeah.
I'm not always doing it because, and sometimes I have to say, you know, he's your son, God, you know, please, you know, not my son, but like
Yeah, I know.
Trump or whatever, you know,
Yeah.
he's your child,
Yeah.
please, you do something about it. I mean, you know, he's in your hands. I'm wiping my feet. Or, you know, the dust.
Yeah. You know, and everybody's broken.
Yes.
You know, because of our world is broken, we have mental problems,
Right.
you know, and just whatever. But thank you, God, as, you know, again, like I said last week, if even I had that much knowledge of God's grace,
That's it.
you know, it's all, you know, helps us to see people differently.
And you know, nobody's born evil, and I don't believe, and
Born sinful,
right, sinful, but not
born
evil.
sinful. I think, you know,
Child
you know,
is not going unless they're brought up that way. And you know, recently I looked at the so-called worst torturers in the Holocaust, and I looked into their future. One was had a head injury. Obviously, he was not right.
right.
You know, and the other one, you know, saw, you know, her mother or something being killed, or, you know, that's where we need to look at in our country is, you know.
Charismatic leaders
Yes, what, you
preaching
know.
the gospel
Mhm.
that is nowhere near
Like,
the
who's hurt
gospel.
you, basically.
Yeah,
Who's
yeah.
hurt you? You know,
And
what
playing
is
on those
happening in your
fears,
life.
whether it's whatever those fears are, you know, sexuality, immigration, color, just whatever, those are the people that are causing where we are, you know. So, I mean, it's just, I'm sorry, it's 1930s again in our country. I do, you know, we got, you know, the military going into all these cities. It's just unbelievable, unbelievable, you
And
know.
this was like 2 years ago, I said to my grandson's other grandfather, I said, Nikolai, did you ever think that, you know, Russia would do this to Ukraine? And he said, no, they were our big brothers. And here, 2 years and a half or 3 years later, I'm saying, I never thought America could be this again. You know what's happening here, so very scary.
You know, there's probably this many people in Russia, and maybe this many people here causing everything.
Exactly.
Because I said this, I think, last week, you know, it's the majority of people that just want peace and hope, and,
Right.
you know, but it's the powers that be, you know, absolute power corrupts absolutely.
We are very bad at history. in
We-
the
I mean,
United States.
Well, but we have a book that tells us that. It's called like the Holy Bible, where it's the same thing over and over and over again, and
Human nature.
and seeing that God never wiped everybody out and started all over again shows us the patience and love God has for this world in spite of us. You know, and again, so why can't we just do what Jesus tells us to do, is to love and care for people?
The quote I read this week that really resonated with me in looking at the world was, everybody else's tears are just water. And I feel that as long as it doesn't,
See, I
there's
mean-
so many people that feel, as long as it doesn't affect me, I don't have to.
Right. You know, and how can that shooting not affect you? If you have kids or grandkids, or if you know a teacher. I mean, how do those things not affect you?
How can, you know, children not being hungry not affect you?
I know.
I just don't
I know,
understand
it's just,
the lack of compassion.
you know, so taking away the funding keeps people hungry, and they just keep them there. They always talk about, we're going to do this for the slums and the projects and the people, and they keep them there.
We are just weeding it out the week.
Yeah.
You know, I had Nicole come over yesterday, and we were talking about how one of her residents at the Napier community got evicted. And she said, it is, if you got evicted from the cheapest place that you can get in the projects, it's very hard to get a place. And, you know, I just said, we need people to help advocate for these people that, you know, she's trying to work, she's trying to get her children together. I mean, Nicole has 2 of her children, one of the 18-year-olds at college and the Army. and then there are two babies, and they're being shipped around because she doesn't have a home. So they're not going to give her children. I mean, it's insane to me that somebody cannot find a home in this country who is willing to work, who's willing to have her children. And, you know, and I just, I get so upset. I don't know how the world can't get upset,
I know.
or the administration doesn't get upset about that. You know?
Did you see the movie Straw?
Oh, yes.
Okay, Tyler Perry
Oh,
had a movie out called Straw.
Yes.
Let me tell you, if you want to weep,
Is that about the single
it's a
woman?
movie about a
Yes.
single mother.
okay.
And
He's got some powerful
she
convictions.
goes through a series of trauma, but she's in an apartment building and late on her rent and struggling,
Yeah.
and has a daughter who has health issues. And the whole thing is, and right near like 2/3 of the way through the movie, this lady says, they don't tell you how expensive it is being poor.
Yeah, exactly.
Because they were saying, you know, everything's a fee. There's $40 fee here. There's $30 fee here. There's $20 fee to cash your check. There's a 3% fee for this. There's a fee for that. I mean, there is a hotel about 2 minutes from where I live, and it says weekly rates $350. Okay, now $350 for a week. Multiply that by 4. That is $1,400 a month that somebody would
For
pay
a
to live in a
motel room.
hotel. And I thought,
Section
who
8
can
probably.
afford $1,400 a month? And I thought,
Yeah.
wow. But you know, that is, they're just living from week to week because that's what they can see. They can't see down the road.
Right.
It was just, but if you watch the movie Straw, it is
You can
powerful.
remember that, so when I
Because I
forget.
think his
Very powerful.
mom was
Yeah.
a single mom, I think.
He did, he got an Oscar a few years ago,
Uh-huh.
and the speech that he gave, I can't remember, but it was just really, really powerful,
Yeah,
you know, on social justice.
this was one of those movies that didn't get that much publicity because it's all about a poor black woman, and people
Yeah.
are like, I don't want to see that depressing stuff. But it's a powerful movie.
Yeah.
Ooh,
Okay.
yeah. He's a good filmmaker.
Yeah, he is, he is.
And Taji, whew, rip your heart out. Taji Henson is the
Yeah,
actress.
Taraji
and
Henson.
she's
Oh.
made for this role.
Yeah,
Oh my gosh.
it was.
It's
Really,
really good.
I'm
makes
surprised
you
that
really-
it's not like Oscar worthy.
Oh.
Taraji P.
Oh, okay,
And a lot of others.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, wow.
But it is quite a story, and it's very, you know, it's sad just because it's, you know, it's talking about poverty, but it really shines a light where it needs to be shined. That's what I was thinking when I saw it.
Yeah. I have to watch it. I have to watch it. Blessed are you when people revile you and persecute you and utter all kinds of evil against you falsely on my account. I mean, Jesus told it like it was. I mean, people aren't going to like me, they ain't going to like you. But you're blessed anyway. Rejoice and be glad, for your reward is great in heaven. For in the same way they persecute the prophets who were before you. You know, Jesus, you know, as I said probably last week again, Jesus never promised a rose garden. Yeah, he promised a garden of Gethsemane. But he also promises the new garden. You know, but in the meantime, we're supposed to bring that garden, that kingdom to earth as it is in heaven by following this radical guy named Jesus, you know, who says we are blessed to help us to be happy. Happy are we now, you know, to experience that kingdom now. And then he goes into the Sermon on the Mount, and I'll just let y'all read that at some point in time. But a very, very, very radical teachings, because he is changing the way people understood God. But when he finishes at the end of chapter 7, he just starts. Because then he walks down the mountain and lives it to the cross. You got to tell them what, you know, when you give a speech or whatever, tell them what you get, tell them, and then tell them what you told them.
Yeah, that's it.
You know, Jesus is, the whole Bible is about what God is going to tell you.
Right.
Jesus tells them, Jesus does it,
Right.
and then the Spirit comes back and keeps telling us, yeah, do that. You know, to reminding us, you know, of why we are here, you know, to continue the story. Still got 11 minutes. They're all, there was nobody, I saw Amber and her kids, I guess they were in the.
nursery,
Okay, so she was in the nursery, I wonder where Natalie was. But, you know, I mean, everybody said they were gonna be gone. I was surprised we had 50-some people here today. And if we didn't have a bunch of those visitors. And we did, a guy sat back there, Andy, his wife was visiting some family member. And he said, well, when she gets back, I'll tell her I really like this place. Maybe we'll come back next week. Maybe Marissa, I think was her name, was gonna, you know, keep dropping a seed to her brother or whatever, you know, of what we're doing. Because really, for the, you know, I really believe we're here because of what we're doing. And we're growing because of what we're doing. You know, and we do that because of what God has done for us. You know, I wish I could spend more time with her. I told her to go look at the picture, you know, of the tornado. I said, man, y'all went through that and the pandemic? Are you not like totally tired? No, because I love Jesus.
And did you realize today that the gospel says why all Lutherans sit in the back of churches?
Okay.
I missed it.
You missed that? Where it says you don't want to exalt yourself by being
Oh man, that would have been good.
It's all humility.
It's all humility. That's why you're in the back.
I always sit in front so I can hear better.
I thought that was Baptist. Come early and get a back seat.
That's good.
Well, let's do one more quick thing. Hopefully we'll get this stupid mold under control one of these days. Still waiting on people to get their results from the HVAC people, or what's causing it, if it's their fault or our fault, to get to the insurance people, who their people said it was an HVAC problem. So then we got to, you know, he was supposed to have their report Friday to get to us, to get to them. Anyway, in my office downstairs, and it might still be there on a little coffee table, I've got my Lutheran Study Bible opened to Matthew 11:28-30. Come to me, all you who are weary and carrying heavy burdens, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you and learn from me, for I am gentle and humble in heart, and you will find rest for your souls. For my yoke is easy and my burden is light. You know, Jesus, you know, drawing people to himself, you know, who are wearied, you know, by all the way the world treats them, for all the terrible reasons that we know about. You know, and he alone can give us the rest that anybody can ever have. You know, our rest can only happen so long. You know, our true rest. And Jesus is calling us to do that. Take my yoke upon you. What is a yoke?
You put oxen together.
You put oxen together with, if you know, see pictures or whatever. And if Sally was here, she could probably tell us, you know, going back to her early days, you know, working on the farm or whatever. But what does a yoke do?
Keep them together.
Keeps them together, keeps them focused to go down the straight line, whatever. You know, so take my yoke, be connected to me, and I'm giving you the yoke. I've already given it to you, as we understand that. You know, and learn from me on that straight and narrow way. So we don't take John 14:6 out of context that we talked about last week. I am the way, the truth, the life, and no one gets to the Father except through me. I mean, this is what Jesus is talking about, not some guy standing out here saying you better do this or you're going to go to hell or whatever. You know, take my yoke, and that yoke for us, for me, you know, is God's love. You know, to learn about that love. For I am gentle and humble in heart. Gentle, not you better or else. You know, going to beat you up, and you'll find rest for your souls. For my yoke is easy, my burden is light. His yoke is really easy. I say it all the time. You know, love God, love everybody else. It doesn't get any easier than that. How to do that, put that into practice, is like the really, really hard part. You know, my burden is light. I would almost say Jesus doesn't burden us as we think of burdening. He does burden us because he gives us a yoke, and you know, burden is something that we are to carry and to do. But if his burden is love, it's light, and it's not, you're not being beat down by it.
You shall find rest unto your soul.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, but burden is light, you know. Because when you think of burden, what do you think of? Being heavy, you know, and beaten down or whatever.
Sure.
You know, but his burden, if his burden, you know, of his yoke is love, then that's not heavy. You know, it's light. And it's freeing. And maybe I feel blessed. Ooh, I tied that in pretty good. Now I'll go sit in the back of the room as Jesus ushers me to the back of the room.
Said my piece.
Y'all got any plans for the rest of the weekend? I know what y'all are doing. Going to lunch. Anybody want to go to lunch with us? Okay. Okay. Go in peace. Serve the Lord.
Thanks be to God.
Thanks be to God. Go turn off the recording.
I'll have a good lunch.
I will send out that not involved thing sometime, hopefully today.